last few weeks, what have we done so far? He should have been dead by now, right? Before even carrying the cross. He was crowned with thorns. He was scourged. If that didn't kill him, we also had the night before when he nearly died. He even said the burden was so severe he couldn't even carry it. He was sweating drops of blood. Remember, they punched him, spat on him, mocked him, you name it. He never slept all night. Then he's before Pilate and Herod, and they're constantly mocking him. Pilate condemns an innocent man. We know all of that. We talked about Barabbas last week. We are Barabbas in the story. But now it's time for Jesus to carry the cross. Has anyone been in the Holy Land? Have you done the Stations of the Cross in the Holy Land? Via Dolorosa. You know how narrow the streets are. So Jesus is asked to carry the cross. Now, yes, there's speculation. According to the study, and I'll just hold this up for those who want to know, No Greater Love, those who have it. Ed Street talks about the typical Roman crucifixion. They would have at the top of Calvary the poles already in place, and then you would carry just the crossbar, and you would carry the crossbar all the way up. There is debate both ways, and you would have, I've heard both in historical accounts, whether Jesus carried it like the movie Passion of Christ, what all the images say, whether he carried the whole cross, or did he carry the top horizontal bar. Some would argue that because there's the shoulder wound, there's a single shoulder wound, that points to the whole cross. But others say it's not consistent with Roman crucifixion. Remember, Jesus did get crucified by Romans, but there are obviously there's certain details that he went above and beyond. So he suffered more than the typical Roman criminal, the typical criminal that the Romans would condemn. So remember, Jesus scourged 10 times more than anyone else. He was beaten, the crown of the thorns, of course, no one else got that. He got that. The amount of mocking and spitting and all of that. So carrying the cross, whether it's both, some visionaries would say it's the whole cross. The Bible says it got lifted up. It really doesn't matter. If you see movies with just like that, and if you see some, I just want to point out, either way, he's carrying something very heavy. And either way, he barely could carry it. So much so that they needed Simon of Cyrene to help him. And if you want to get down to the argument of the single shoulder, it works both ways. Because if Simon of Cyrene helped Jesus carry the cross, if it was a crossbar or the whole cross, well, it would probably still be one shoulder, because Jesus did not carry it across his shoulder, both shoulders. He would have carried it, shared with Simon of Cyrene. So whichever way you want to go, you know what? It actually doesn't matter because he got crucified on a cross. But the carrying of the cross, let's look at this. He carries this cross. Just notice he could barely walk, let alone carry this heavy thing. And he's going up. He's got all of his wounds exposed. He's got the robe. He's got the crown of thorns, carrying all of this, all the wounds exposed. And it's uphill. It's not smooth. I mean, now it's smooth, but back then it wouldn't have been smooth. Very rocky. That time of year, the heat would have been, springtime. So it's starting to get hot. And not easy to do. If you look at doing all of that, he falls naturally. I mean, we probably would fall. If we were fit, imagine you're a bodybuilder and you're lifting up, remember a lot of laborers would carry the 40 kilogram concrete bags, right? And then I know there's a competition in Australia, they carry 50 kilos. Imagine carrying something that's, almost, it's more than that. It's like your whole body weight on top of it. You got to carry this thing and drag it, and you're nearly dead. Now, if you were fit, you would struggle to do this. If you were a young, fit, muscly person, you would struggle to carry the cross up Mount Calvary. Just let that sink in. If you were fit, strong, you would struggle. Jesus, yes, is fit, yes, is strong, but he's almost dead. And he's got to carry this. So he naturally falls the first time. How many falls do we count in the stations? 3. I want you to notice something. Does Jesus stay down? No. He gets back up 3 times. There is lots of symbolism. Do you remember how we started Lent and we started this talk? The devil tempted Jesus how many times? 3 times. Those sins were linked with which other sin? The one in Eden. Do you remember the temptations the devil gave to Jesus were the same temptations he threw on Adam and Eve? So he's only got one playbook, the devil. And he threw it at Adam and Eve, succeeded. He tries it on Jesus, doesn't succeed. Here he is, come back at the opportune time, and he's trying again. Jesus will fall once, get back up. He will overcome that first temptation. Falls down again, gets back up, overcomes the second temptation. Falls down a third time, gets back up, overcoming the third. It's symbolic. It's almost like undoing the first 3 temptations from that original sin. If you can see that link, gets back up. And the message for us when we carry our cross, you will fall. Actually, I can almost guarantee everyone in this room is going to fall. Sorry to tell you, be a bearer of bad news. We are all going to fall. Not one of us is perfect. We are all going to be given a cross in our life in one shape or another. Every one of our crosses is very, very different. So we cannot fall into the trap of starting to compare our own cross. Sometimes there's a human weakness there. We might say, oh, it's so, I've got such a sore back. This is God's cross for me. And then someone else says, I've got a broken leg. You know what? Yours is worse. And then someone else might have a lifelong illness. That's worse. And then someone else says something. And all of a sudden, we start to compare, almost like a competition about who is suffering the most. And so who feels more sorry for each other. Just know this. All suffering, if applied to the cross of Christ, is salvific, is meritorious. All suffering. The greatest suffering, if not applied to Christ, is wasted. A small bit of suffering, if applied to the cross of Christ, can save souls. It's very powerful. The smallest. Remember, Mother Teresa even said this. She said, it's really not how successful you are in life, it's how faithful you are. And St. Teresa of Lisieux also said, it's in the little things you do faithfully, and which is a cross, right? To do your work well, to offer up any of your offerings to God well. Do it well. And guess what? You are going to fall. That's inevitable. That's okay. But the deal is do what Jesus does. Get back up. You don't have to go back and start from level 1 again and come back. Just get back up and keep going. And that's the lesson in the carrying of the cross. Move through life. Don't go backwards. Keep going forwards. Don't go backwards. Keep going forwards. Do not put your hand on the plow. Once you put your hand on the plow, do not look back. Keep going. You are persevering towards a goal. Jesus cannot give up now. He's going to get back up. He's got to get to that Calvary, the top. If he doesn't, this whole thing falls short of the mission. The mission is to get to Calvary. Jesus knows I've got to get there. He's going to go all the way. So if you've knocked down in life, get back up. All right. So there's 3 stations right away covered. Now there is another one where Jesus will meet his mother. Can you just enter into this scene? He's all bloody. Mary suffered alongside Jesus. It's called, if you've heard of the 7 sorrows of Mary, it really points to this. Do you remember in the scriptures, the first time we hear about Mary is going to have a pierced heart or suffering heart, sorrowful heart? Where do you hear that? It's in Luke 2, in the presentation in the temple. Simeon. He predicts Mary will suffer in the future. And in the prophecy, Simeon is a prophet. He knows that this baby, Jesus, is a prophet. He can now leave. He was waiting for this prophet. He now has seen him. At last, O powerful master, you give leave to your servant. For my eyes have seen your salvation, which you have prepared for all nations, the light to enlighten the Gentiles and give glory to Israeli people. And then he predicts that Mary will suffer. And the 7 sorrows are linked to that prophecy, and it's true. Mary will suffer. As any mother knows, the pain you receive when your children are in pain and how you cannot. And men will need to appreciate this more. Men don't have the same sort of feeling. We are more external, and we have a different type of cross than most women, to be honest. Women will feel the pain in a more interior way, which sometimes can be worse. So you want to appreciate what's going on. And God has made us this way. Male and female, we complement each other. Husband and wife, mother and father actually work together in this. This is why the children, when they fall, they go to mum, not dad. Mum's going to be the one that's going to care even more, have actually a connection. That the dad, as much as he tries, he won't match the mum in those moments. It's very interesting. Children look to their mother for nurture, but they do look for the father for nature. So there's a difference. And so the character of the father is very important, his example. But the mother is also there. And so Mary is suffering on levels we can't imagine, but only a mother who sees her child suffer can get a little hint of that. So Mary is in this too. So they meet. I love this scene in the Passion. Do you remember it? As Mary sees Jesus fall, and then she actually has a flashback of when Jesus fell as a little child, hurting his little knee, and she's running to a little child, and then it fast forwards back to this present time, and she's running to Jesus, and then she gets to see Jesus. They rise up, and then he says very powerful words. I love this. Watch, Mum. I will make all things new. And it is this sort of little triumph in the stations. And Mary knows it's still not easy, but she knows he has to do what he's got to do. And so Jesus comforts his own mother and says, I will make all things new. We know how this ends, but we've still got to journey through with him. We've still got to carry the cross with him. So he meets his mother. And remember, also, there's an example for us that when we are going through the toughest times in life, who do we turn to? Of course, you can always turn to God. But don't ever forget, you have a mother that you can turn to who loves you and that knows what suffering is and that can be there for you in that time of pain. So really turn to Mary as well. Don't forget that. And she can comfort our pain and suffering. And then you hear the words from her to you, maybe repeating her son's words. I will make all things new through her intercession. She can help get through all pain and suffering. So now Jesus is still pushing through. And during this time, I want you to imagine these narrow streets, people mocking and spitting and throwing stuff at him. And the soldiers still sort of whipping him to keep going and pushing him. And what a time. You couldn't do that if you were so prepared. But for Jesus to go through this, he then comes across Veronica. You know Veronica's veil. And this is not in Scripture, interesting. So it's not in Matthew, Mark, Luke, or John. You can verify it from other historians, but it's interesting. The Veronica's veil, that is another relic that's left behind of the face of Jesus. You can go to France, I believe, and see the veil, which is separate to the shroud. So the shroud is one image, and the veil is another image. Both reflect the same face, of course, but one is before resurrection, one is after resurrection. So very interesting to see the two. And Veronica, by the way, nice little fact, Veronica is icon. Her name means icon. And what's the face? It's an icon of Jesus. He continues to carry the cross, and then he comes across the weeping women. He says something very interesting. Have you noticed? Do not weep for me. Weep for yourselves and your children. And even if you read in Mark, he'll go on to say something about the green wood. What?
Wood is green now, what will happen when it's dry?
What on earth is Jesus meaning by that? If wood is green now, what will happen when it's dry? Who is the green wood? So he just said, do not weep for me, weep for yourselves and your children. We are at the very beginning stages of Christianity. The very beginning stages. It's still green. Yes, he is suffering. But wait until the green wood is dry, which is wait till I'm gone, wait for the next generation. We're going to have persecution like no tomorrow. The Roman Empire, Nero and all these other leaders will kill the Christians to follow. Weep for yourselves and your children. They're going to be suffering. So I'm okay. I'm going to be okay because I know in a few days I'm going to resurrect. But you guys got to be ready because the onslaught's coming. And you better be ready to stand up for what I've done for you. If you're not ready to stand up, just be ready. It's going to burn you. You're not going to be able to withstand it. So he's comforting the women in one sense that I'm going to be okay. But your children, on the other hand, make sure they're ready because I don't think they're going to be okay if they're not ready. So make sure you're ready. And this again to the reader. Are we ready for the onslaught? That's the question for us. Does it feel like it's early church times all over again? Does it feel like there is a bit of an anti-Christian vibe in the world today? Certainly. But don't weep for Christ and the church right now. Weep for yourselves and your children. So weep in the sense that, am I actually ready for this onslaught? Am I ready to face what's out there? Am I? Are you? And are you ready to prepare your kids for that? Because we're going to be in a culture that is in our face, anti-Christian, to the point where the way they mock Jesus, they are going to mock us. And it is happening right now. It has been happening actually, not just in recent times, but for 2,000 years. And people have mocked Christianity right from the beginning. There's nothing new under the sun. I was talking about this today with someone, and what's interesting about our times, some people are worried it's the worst time to live. It's the worst sin. The devil is out and is exposing himself everywhere. What a time to live. It's the worst. So, and I feel sorry I wish it was like the good old days. Just when were the good old days? Was it the 50s? Was it the 50s when Playboy was born and that started all that pornography stuff and then divorce was legalized? Was the 50s the good old days? Was it the 40s when it was World War II and half the population was slaughtered and we had communism rife and we had the Nazis, of course? Was it World War I? We know what happened there. Was it, where were the good old days? Was it in the French Revolution in the 1800s? Was it the Industrial Revolution? When was the good old days? Was it in 1600s, 16th century during the Reformation when half the church split? Was it in the Renaissance time when we had a bit more pride and money and wealth and we started to be a bit more pride-filled? Was it in the, when were the good old days? During times of St. Francis when he evangelized, but he was evangelizing a very toxic culture. Was it the split in 1054 between Orthodox and Catholics? When were the good old days? Someone pointed out, was it 500 when the Coptic church as well also had a split? As the church is splitting, as the culture is going, was it 400, 4th century? Was it 300? Remember the first 300 years? It was terrible. You couldn't worship publicly. Everything was in secret. Tell me when the good old days existed. Some would say the Middle Ages, but was it perfect? Do you see, we can't just say the good old days and just move on. Okay, good old days. Back in the 80s, when we could walk in the streets freely. Nice for that part, but we've got to think about what is the ideal. What are we actually striving for? Are we striving for just safe streets so we can talk to our neighbors? Is that it? What does it look like? What do the good days look like? What does God say about that? Let that, imagine, dream a bit. What is a good society? What is it? It's a society that, wouldn't it be great? I just want you to go through this with me. There are 8 billion people in the world. So we've got a mission, right? We've got to help reach 8 billion people discover Jesus. I want you to dream. If you could just wave a magic wand and say, yep, everyone's going to become Catholic now. Great. All right. Imagine society now, all Catholic. Does that solve our problem? The battle isn't over, is it? The battle, in fact, now becomes real for every individual. The battle is not just to convert people to Catholicism. That's a major part. We want to invite people in. But that's not the end game. The end game now is to actually live out your faith and die in God's grace. So that means you've got to struggle through your own life and practice your faith through the good times and the bad times. And the mystery about that is, as the saints reveal, it's in the suffering they get enjoyment. It's through love. It's not that they enjoy it like pleasure. They love the fact that they can unite their pain with God. And so think about the only way to understand that. You have a child. And that child wakes up in the middle of the night, and you're tired. I know the feeling. You get back up and you rock the child back. Oh, it's a dirty nappy. You got to go change the nappy. Then the child needs to be fed. And then the child will throw up on you. Love gets you beyond these little things to the point where that child is my child. And I love this child so much that it could vomit on me. It could mess up stuff. I'm still going to love the child. And a mother and father, parents, will always love that child, even if that child costs them blood, sweat, and tears. In fact, that's the point. If you have two lovebirds, love each other, it's the pursuit. The man is trying to pursue, and he wants to ask the struggle in getting over the nerves to ask someone out. And then, there's a bit of a cross to go, right? Facing rejection. There's all this stuff that goes in people's minds, trying to ask the ideal person. And I know that struggle. But that's, again, the beginning. Now, the cross keeps coming, but you would give up so many things. I'll give up the footy for my new friend, right? I'll give up all my pleasure, give up gaming so I can have Ben be my loved one. I'll start to give up all the things I like because now, through love, I now want to be with this person. I'll give up, if she likes chocolate and I've only got one bit of chocolate, I'm going to give her the chocolate. I'm not going to eat the chocolate. I'll sacrifice to give my bride or my loved one what she wants. Would you not do that? And that gives me satisfaction. I am now happy. This is the little mystery we have. If I could give up my own little pleasures for the love of God, that's how I can get through pain. This is what love does. It helps us rise above things that are temporal. That's all they are, temporal. So what is the ideal world we are striving for? Once everyone is Catholic, that's not the end. That's really only the beginning. We have to continue to fight evil and live that life. So I'm just here to warn you, utopia in this side of heaven, it doesn't exist in the sense of, wow, we're going to have heaven on earth. We pray for heaven on earth, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. But what is his will? It's not without suffering. It's not without love, which is self-sacrifice. It's not without all those things. So really, heaven is in heaven. So we're going to strive to get to heaven. That's when we can really celebrate. From now till then, we're striving to get there. So just that will help you get through all sorts of disappointments in life. I hope I'm making sense with that. But what are the good old days? What's the world we're striving for? Okay, Jesus, he meets those women. He moves on. And now he then gets to the top of Calvary. Just a few details here. Jesus, the word Calvary is not in the Bible. What's the word they use in the Bible? Golgotha. What does Golgotha mean? It even gives you the translation in the Bible. Place of the skull. A couple of things and a couple of traditions on the back of this. Some say the skull is Adam's skull, the original sin. Did Jesus get crucified on the spot that Adam committed the original sin? That's an interesting one. The rock looked like a skull, so the place, and someone mentioned that. Actually, Ed Shreve mentions that. It's also a reminder of death, just in general. We're going to go back and deteriorate back into the earth, and what will be left? The skull. It's a reminder of our temporal life. We will die. A lot of saints actually had the skull as a reminder of the cross and our own death. So it's not a bad image, it's just a reminder of the reality. We will die. But Calvary, Jesus goes up the mountain. So remember Mount Calvary and Mount Moriah. Remember the Isaac and Jesus comparison. And the Father taking his beloved Son up the mountain. So Isaac goes up the mountain with wood on his back to his death, and he asks for the lamb, and Abraham says, God will provide the lamb. Gets to the top, and then he's saved by a ram. Jesus, the beloved Son, goes up a mountain, Mount Calvary, carrying wood on his back. It's the cross. He gets to the top. God doesn't provide the lamb. He is the lamb. He will replace the old lamb. So this is the imagery we're seeing. He gets to the top, and he's stripped of his clothes. So what clothes? The robe, the purple cloak. He's stripped. Now just let that image burn your mind. He's got over 300 plus scourges, blood everywhere, and that cloth stuck to his wounds. And they, have you ever complained about a little Band-Aid being ripped off? Or those who wax, think about this. Exposed wounds, stuck, top to bottom, ripped off. It was then divided 4 ways. Actually, they cast lots for the garments, fulfilling an Old Testament prophecy. So now Jesus is naked. And now he's going to be nailed to the cross. As he's nailed to the cross, we know where the wounds are. So hands and feet, how did that work? You've seen images of the wrist. You've seen images of the hand. Is it the hand or the wrist? And the answer is it's both. If it was just the hand there, they couldn't hold it. You just rip down. So if the nail went through that way, that doesn't work. And it's not directly in the wrist because it clearly says hands. And when you see lots of images, the Shroud of Turin shows wounds on the hands. Where is it? Where's the wounds? The nail and Roman crucifixion would have went through the base of the palm on an angle in this way, getting the wrist. That locks in and holds the weight of the body. So it's the palm of the hand. So it is the hand, but the nail's going this way. Does that make sense? So I don't know how I can show you. It's on an angle. So he can actually be held up. So it is the hand, but it's the base of the hand, and it is through the wrist. So it's both. If you're confused, that's where it is. And the Shroud of Turin backs that up. So you'll see the wounds coming back to about there. So about there on an angle to about there, and killing the nerves. So a little exercise you can do. We have all these nerves, right? All your fingers are with nerves. If I press, there's somewhere in your wrist, you can find it. The thumb, if you press it, the thumb goes in. Look at that, my thumb's going in. Try it. Why am I saying this? Because the nail killed these nerves, excruciating pain, and Jesus in the Shroud of Turin has his thumbs in, like this. And so they would have killed that nerve, causing the thumb to be folded in, and that's what happened in the Shroud of Turin. So all being consistent with what's going on. So yeah, I don't know if anyone has got it, but there's a section there in your wrist in line with your thumb. It moves your thumb. But imagine killing that nerve, your thumb collapsing, and that's how he was buried. So there's the hands. Then the feet. And up and just different images, different crucifixes. Yeah, that's the correct one. So it's a foot on top of the foot, nail through. I know people get caught up. It doesn't really matter. Both feet had the nail go through. And the idea of the one on top of the other does allow for the person with a little platform under the feet to push on it. So you can push your way up to be able to actually breathe, and then basically go back down. But it stops you from completely hanging to the point where you can't breathe. Otherwise, you'll suffocate. Within a minute, you're dead. The Romans wanted to maximize the pain. They actually want you to be on there as long as possible. And so the idea is that little platform will ensure it stop you from actually sliding all the way, and one foot on the other will limit you from how low you go. You'll go low enough to be hanging, but not so low that you're suffocating. And then if you want to speak, like you can't really speak in this position, next week I'm going to go through how painful that is, but you've got to push against that platform, against those nails, if you want to open your mouth and speak. So Jesus is nailed. And then, as it says in John, lifted up for the world to see. And it's not the first time we've heard those words. Daniel chapter 7 would say the Messiah, the Son of Man, will be lifted up for the world to see. And this is the spot. He's lifted up for the world to see. And now we see Jesus. There he is on the cross. He looks finished. It's over. In fact, the devil's probably laughing right now at this point, saying, I've got you. Finally got you. You know, you beat me in the desert. I'll give you that one. But now I've got you. The pleasure he had in seeing Jesus suffering like that. Think about it. So he thinks he's winning. All the bystanders, actually there are 3 that we're told. The bystanders who mocked Jesus, wagging their heads. That's the word used, wagging their heads. There's the leaders, the actual Jewish leaders, wagging their heads, pointing their fingers and telling him and mocking him to come down from the cross. And then there are the other criminals on the side, the good thief and the bad thief, also putting their 2 cents in. Save yourself, save us with you. So 3 different witnesses condemning Jesus still in these final moments. Now, interesting, the hours, some say 3rd hour, some say 6th hour. Darkness fell on the earth between the 6th and the 9th hour. What time was all this? The 3rd hour is 9 o'clock. The 6th hour is 12 o'clock. And the 9th hour is 3 o'clock. So depending on how you calculate all this, Jesus may have been already nailed. Mark goes as early as the 3rd hour. So up to 6 hours hanging on the cross. Some might think it's 3. It's between 3 and 6. But the darkness hits the earth at the 6th hour. So midday to 3 o'clock. So the middle of the day, it's dark. It's like creation is weeping at this point. The greatest sin you can commit, the greatest act of evil, is to kill God. Can you think about that? This is the worst crime imaginable. The most innocent of innocents is God himself being crucified. Where sin abounds, grace abounds all the more. Greater the sin, greater the God's grace. Which means what? You're going to get the worst act. What's the outcome 3 days later? The greatest amount of grace. We're talking, this is opening up heaven, literally. So the worst act, God can still turn into the best outcome. This is the God we believe in. He could have left us back in Eden, remember? But he's come down to do this for us. And I want to bring back to the point I was trying to make about the good old days and what are we looking at? We are in, no doubt, one of the worst times in history, but it's also the best time in history. Let me explain. Worst times. We are at a point where We can't define our terms. We don't know what is true, good, or beautiful. We don't know what love is. We don't know what family is. We don't know what peace is. We don't know what democracy is. We don't know what freedom of speech is. We don't know what respect is. There's a lot of things we don't know. We don't know who God is. We don't know who we are. We don't know why we are here. There's a lot of things that absolutely a mess right now. The largest group of non-believing people is today. So 8 billion people. In Australia, what are we, 27 million? 40% say they don't believe in anything, right? It's the highest it's ever been. From the very beginning of humanity, there's always been some belief in a God. If you think about all of that, the very first commandment, God doesn't say, He doesn't say, believe in me, believe in God. He says, have no other false gods before me. Meaning, we are hardwired for worship, and people will believe in something, whether it's the true God or the false God. And so He's warning us that you're all going to worship something in life. Make sure it's the one true God. Don't worship yourselves. Here we are, 40% no religion. And that number is not going down at the moment, it's still going up. So it's going in the wrong direction. So we are in the worst time in human history according to that statistic. Anyone notice something since COVID? During COVID, remember, the pandemic, the world, it was the end of the world. Some people thought we did lose lives. We lost a lot of people. But what has come out of that almost felt like a real sifting, a test of people's faith, test of our outlook of life. What are we seeing in the last few years? I don't know if you noticed. I'm certainly noticing. Although the numbers have been low for many years and most of my life and dropping at church, I've noticed, and the stats are now backing it up, that there are new people coming into the church. Baptisms are now going up. Holy Communions are now going up. The average age of people coming to church are now starting to come up. This is interesting. What's going on? The overall numbers of people practicing in the Catholic Church I can talk about is coming down. The ones who are left, internally what's going on, there are these new, so without the new ones, it actually would be much worse, by the way. So it's 8% right now. It would probably be 5% if it wasn't for the new ones. But thanks to the new ones, I'm here, we're St. Jerome's, this is part of the Sydney Archdiocese. There are 400 people expected to be baptized as new Catholics this Easter in Sydney Archdiocese alone. Not Sydney City, Sydney Archdiocese. There's Broken Bay, Wollongong, Parramatta. 4. In just one of them, there's 400 in one mass this coming in 2.5 weeks. This is good news. We haven't seen these numbers for a long time. When you start to see around the place, there's this resurgence of reviving the tradition of the church, reviving all of that. Look at, what Father's doing here is amazing, but he's not alone now. He was maybe when he first became ordained, but alongside Father Gideon, you could probably count the numbers in Sydney alone of like 80 or 90 priests who have been ordained that love God, they love Our Lady, they love the Eucharist, they love everything we've been sharing over the last few weeks. Their faith, they're praying the rosary, they're on fire, and they're all young, they're all under 50, they're 30s and 40s, and so the seminary is the fullest it's been in 50 years. So 55 years. That's good. That means things are actually turning. Things are going in the right direction. So yes, it's the worst time in human history. However, I think God's preparing the troops for this final worst time, and it's going to be the best time. We are hearing stories, I'm personally hearing stories of people who are having miracles, encounters, direct, like God and Our Lady are coming directly to them, and these are atheists, agnostics, who don't even think about God, have a dream. So what was that? They want to. We're seeing miracles. There are more miracles in the last century than human history. There are more saints in the last century than all the other centuries put together. Let that sink in. There are more martyrs in the last century than all the other centuries put together. So yes, it is the worst time, but it's also the best time. I know it sounds ironic, but it actually is. It's amazing. So we are filled with hope that thanks to what Jesus is doing here on the cross, we have hope. It's not over. The devil might think he's winning. He's winning a battle right now, but he's not going to win the war. In fact, he's already lost the war. That Jesus will win. Next week we're going to show you. All we have to do is make sure we're on the right side of that war. Stay on the right side of that war. We're going to lose battles. That's fine. Just don't lose the war. Fair enough? Is that a good deal? Do not lose this war. Pick what side you're on. And Jesus, as he promised, he'll make all things new. And there'll be this new heavens and new earth where we'll be able to be there with him and all the angels and all the saints for all eternity. Thanks to this event. If this event doesn't happen, we don't get that. If this event doesn't happen, we are out of the garden with Adam and Eve. We're never going to see God. Because of this event, we now get to enjoy heaven. That's how much God loves us. That's why he came. I'll just finish with this, just to let this sink in this week as we go through, and I invite you to carry your cross this week and next week. Next week, we're going to be doing the 7 last sayings. But just think about this. From the very beginning, and this will set the stage for next week. From the very beginning, remember, God could have said to Adam and Eve, I forgive you. That's fine. Adam and Eve could have said sorry. They would have been forgiven. But there's still justice. Punishment must fit the crime. We understand that. So Adam and Eve have created this big gap between them and God. The issue is, when it's against God, you can't measure that. It's infinite. What do I mean? I don't know if I said this in the first week, but very quickly, just to make the point, if Adam said to God, take my life, save Eve, God would have said to him, it's a nice gesture, but you're not understanding the problem. You are eternally apart from me. Your life, as much as it's valuable to you, it's still a finite life. One human life being sacrificed will not repay the debt that Eve and Adam inherited. Not 100 lives, not 1 million lives, not 8 billion lives. In fact, there's no comparison. And just like we can see in the natural level, if I insult Eddie over here, which, I should never do, and I'll never do, but if I ever did, I'm sorry, I would say sorry. And then I'll compliment him afterwards. And it's between me and Eddie, and it's done. If I take something of Eddie's, I'll say sorry. But what do I have to do? I've got to give back what I've taken. And if I've lost that thing, even though he forgives me, I've got to repay it, right? I have to find something of equal value. It wouldn't be just if I say, called him a bad name, and then my repayment was buy him a house. That's a bit overboard. So, no, that's a bit weird. Or my repayment is high five, all good, suck it up. That's not good either. I have to say sorry. I have to make up for what I've done. Now, as you go up the ranks, as you go to that police officer, if you were to insult the police officer the same way, you'd probably have to pay a fine. If you insult the Prime Minister, you'd probably go to jail or do community service. If you insult the King or the Queen, same sin, same action, but what's going on? The punishment gets worse and worse and worse and worse. Why? Because you can measure what they represent. Eddie represents himself. The police officer represents New South Wales, the state. The Prime Minister represents the country, and then the King or the Queen represent the kingdom. So as you can see, and anyone can follow the natural law, that justice, the punishment must fit the crime. The way you measure that punishment is what is the impact. One-on-one, the next impact, I'm now insulting the state. So all the people of New South Wales. So the punishment's worse. I'm insulting the country, all of Australia. punishment's worse. Then the whole kingdom, punishment's worse. Do you see how that works? So we can get that. But how do you measure God? If you sin against God, if I insulted God, the very same insult I gave to Eddie, but now I'm pointing that to God, I can't just say sorry and move on. I'll say sorry, he'll forgive me. But now I've got this infinite gap. How do I make up for that? I can't. Because I'm a finite being. I can't. The only way out of this, remember, God doesn't have to let us back in. They cut themselves off. But in his love, in his mercy, he says, okay, I'm going to fix this. Adam, got yourself in a pickle. I'm going to get you out of it. And the only way to get out of it is if something was infinite that could pay the debt, but also at the same time has to represent humanity. An infinite being that is also human, that pays the price. That's where we're at. So all the way back in Genesis 3:15, that prophecy, that, remember the woman, I'll put enmity between you and the woman, between her seed and your seed and her seed. That woman, which is Mary, and her seed, which is Jesus, that they will crush Satan and they will pay the debt we couldn't pay on ourselves. So yes, you can say sorry, but you still got to make up for the sin. And we can't make up an infinite gap. Does that make sense? So the only way an infinite gap can be paid is if an infinite being comes down and pays that. So you ask yourself, why didn't Jesus just come down the next day? Was God not ready? Is God like unprepared for this? Was it because God wasn't ready, or was it because we weren't ready? You know the answer. We weren't ready. What's the evidence? After Adam and Eve, Cain kills Abel. Adam and Eve deny all their sin, by the way. They blame everyone. And then Cain kills Abel. So not only do we have pride, disobedience, all of that, we now have jealousy, envy, murder. And then as you read the Bible, as it goes on to Noah, we've got now adultery, we've got incest, we've got rape, we've got all this sort of stuff going on in the good old days, eh? The good old days. In the earliest of humanity, the worst sins are being committed. So God has to restart, and He floods the earth. So as you see, it doesn't get better, it gets worse, meaning we are far from ready for receiving Jesus. But thanks be to God, it took 4,000 years. He finally comes, what we call the fullness of time, at year zero. What is year zero? BC is before Christ. It's BC. I want this on the camera, it's BC. It's not the other letters. BC, before Christ. Not common era, before Christ. Because it was the birth of Jesus that we change it to then AD. Day of the Lord. Jesus is the Lord of history, and He separates history before Him, after Him. We've said this for centuries. For some weird reason, the last few decades, we're changing out to be politically correct. It's BC. Before Christ. And not before COVID, before Christ. Way before COVID. And that's what defines our God. It's at this time, fullness of time, that God becomes one of us, so He's going to pay the debt that we couldn't pay. That's what brought us here. This is the time of salvation. This is why it's going to be Good Friday, not Bad Friday. It's a good day. As bad as it seems, it's the worst crime you can commit, but we know this has to happen to pay the debt we couldn't pay. We now get to enjoy heaven. That's the God we worship. That's the God we love, and that's the God that loves us. Just when you think He's down and out and He's conquered, and the devil's celebrating right now at this point, from the 3rd to the 9th hour, darkness comes upon the earth. And look at the opening, as I finish, the opening words of the chief priests. He said He could destroy the temple in 3 days and rebuild it. Well, let Him come down from the cross and prove He is the Messiah. Jesus looks like He's dead. He's not dead. It looks like He's finished. He's not finished. He looks like He's a failure. Let's face it. Where are the 12 apostles? There's only one there. Where are the other 11? One's killed himself. The other 10 are hiding. He's a failure. Is Jesus a failure? The Romans for centuries teased Christians because they worshipped a crucified God. If that's your God, is Jesus dead and buried? You know the answer. Next week, we're going to go through those 7 words. I did this last year for those who were here. I'm going to do it with a bit more detail and invite anyone who can come next week, because it's the week before Holy Week. It's the week before the week that changed the world. So next Tuesday, if you can come with friends, whoever wants to come, we're going to go through the 7 last sayings, and we're going to show you that although this is the lowest point of this whole series, Jesus is now crucified. He's not dead yet. And he's still got 7 more sayings to go. And those 7 sayings that he's about to say, each pack a punch. He's not going to mix words. And if he opens his mouth, he's going to press against the nails in his feet up to be able to project his voice and say something. And everything he says is going to mean something. It's the greatest sermon ever told, and it's from a cross. Next week, it's the climax. We're going to get to the end. And Jesus is not going to let the devil win. He's going to overcome in this final battle. And it's going to be once and for all next week. God bless you. Any questions? Yes.
Did the devil not know that God would die? Like, did he not know that Jesus was God?
He absolutely knew he was God.
Why did he not try to stop the crucifixion?
He doesn't know the future. Yeah, the devil does not know the future. Do you know that? The devil can only, like a detective, look at the past, look at patterns, look at what's been done, and almost, he's very good at it, guess the future, like sort of know what way you're going to go. He doesn't know the future. Only God knows the future. Angels, I don't think, know the future. Only God knows the future. So the devil, although is very good at analyzing what's been done, has no idea what is coming next. He can guess what's coming next based on your history, but he did not see this one coming. He thought he was going to beat Jesus once and for all. He did not see that was going to turn into the resurrection. He was probably, just too proud to admit that's going to work. He thought he had him because all of his followers left, the chief leaders left. No one believed he was a Messiah. But next week, Jesus will have a few more things to say. I love it. Yes, and then I'll go to you next. Yeah.
You spoke about when he was wearing the purple cloak, that he was fulfilling a prophecy. What prophecy was that?
The Messiah would be a king. Only kings wear purple. Actually, it's surprising that they had a purple cloak because that's not cheap. The color purple, any material that was purple was only for royalty, and so they've managed to find this purple cloak, got it, and put it on him. So they're not like, that's a big deal. That's not a. So the Messiah will be king. There is a prophecy about him being mocked, of course, there's a few. So he's one of those that he'll be mocked, but he is also king. So he's both king, the true king, and he'll be mocked. It does talk about in some prophecies the way he'll be mocked. It doesn't connect that he'll be mocked as a king. He'll just be mocked. But here we go. The true King of Kings is being mocked as king, but he actually is king. So the irony there. So that there's double prophecies that the Messiah will be king and that the Messiah will be mocked. And there's other details too later on. Next week, I'm going to draw a few more things out. But yeah, good question. Sorry, you had a question, then I'll come to you.
You mentioned about suffering. When we suffer, we need to unite our suffering
With Jesus.
Yeah.
Don't waste it.
How do we say that? Like, do we just say it in a prayer?
Yeah, it's all in your intentions. It's actually very simple. Making sure you apply it mentally. It's just a mental thing. Lord, I unite this with you. It's just the whole difference of the whole action changes the moment our intention changes. If you just change that intention, which no one else will see. No one else will know what's the difference. And it doesn't matter what people think. God knows your intentions. And if your intention is pure and deliberate, you can turn that piece of suffering into redemption. We participate in the redemption of Christ through our suffering. This is powerful. St. Paul actually talks about it. We can also be co-redeemers with God through our suffering. Blows your mind. But yes, next week I sort of want to, because there's a whole imagery of the sacrifice, and it's linked to all the animal sacrifices, and all worship of God is revolved around worship to God with a sacrifice offering. So it is tied into that. So now we become the offering through our pain and suffering. And that's how we can offer our sacrifice. Our altar comes in various forms. And I'll talk about that next week. But that's a very good question.
So you know how there was only one of the disciples that were there?
Yeah, John was the only one.
Why did the others, where were the others? Why did they not?
You know what? They were probably, let's think about this. One, out of fear, initially out of fear. But how disappointed would they have been? They just, how frustrated was Jesus? He was trying to explain to them what was going to go. But they don't get it. And so they still don't get it. And now, this Lord that performed all these miracles the last 3 years, it doesn't look pretty. He's now bloody and scourged. He looks defeated. He looks defeated. So I think on a human level, they're probably thinking, is he actually like, is this how it ends? We wanted them as, this is probably why most Jews didn't convert, because they wanted the Messiah to deliver them from the Romans and from all that. And this Jesus at the moment looks like there's no deliverance happening here. I'm not being saved right now, so there's no way I'm going to believe in him. And I think there's a bit of temptation. The apostles who should know better should have been there. They were warned this was coming, but they didn't understand. So I think fear is a big one, being embarrassed, self-preservation, but being confused too. They're probably confused. They're still not getting it. It's like, Jesus is defeated. What do we do? Because remember, 3 days later, what were they doing? They were fishing. But what do we do? They were doubting Thomas. They didn't understand until the empty tomb. Everything changed after that. But until then, they were still not 100% sure.
I just have one little question. Would God forgive them for that?
Absolutely. They're in heaven, they're saints. Yeah, 11 of the 12 are 100% in heaven.
Because at that time, wouldn't it count as them?
At the time, yeah. But they repented. Yeah, big time. They repented so much that they laid down their life for him. And martyrdom is instant heaven. That's your purgatory right there, straight to heaven. The blood of the martyrs. And it's another form of baptism too. Baptism by blood, martyrdom. That's straight to heaven. So yes, all of them except John. John did have a different type of persecution, but all of them were martyred. So yeah, good question. All right. One more, yeah.
Can you touch on the similarities between Adam and Eve, their temptations and Jesus' temptations?
Yeah. Well, okay. The same strategy was used. So to just a quick comparison is back in the garden. Remember, you had the forbidden fruit, and the serpent goes to Eve, and so there's three things that we know. It's pleasing to the eye. Yep. No. It's going to taste good. It's going to taste good. That's the pleasure. It looks good, pleasing to the eye. That's your possessions. And then it's going to feel good. You could be God. And that is pride. And then the devil does the same thing in the desert to Jesus. The stone being turned to bread, it's going to taste good. Pleasure. He takes him and says, you can have all the kingdoms if you bow down and worship me. Sin, it's going to look good. Possession, you can have everything. And the last one is just bow down, throw yourself off, and save and call your angels to save you. So it's going to feel good. And this is pride. And so the devil will try attack us through those 3 P's. 3 P's. Let's start with P. Pleasure, possession, pride. And the way to conquer it, the way to overcome it, is fasting, almsgiving, and prayer. And that's what we do in Lent. That's the strategy to counter that. So very good. So we've got the last 2 weeks. Do whatever you can. You've fallen, it's okay. Get back up, as Jesus did tonight, and just keep going to that cross. And that's the purpose of our Lenten fast. Not going to be easy, but do what the first disciple did. Simon of Cyrene, in closing, carried the cross. He followed the words used, and this is a take-home message. Remember, Jesus said, if you want to be my disciple, pick up your cross every day and follow me. Well, the words used when Simon of Cyrene carries the cross, he picks up the cross and follows Jesus. He's the first disciple. Simon of Cyrene is the first to pick up the cross and follow Jesus. Just remember that. So pick up your cross tonight and follow Jesus. Next week we'll be back for the finale, and we'll see you next week.